Hello, and welcome to my top 20 films of 2021. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Well, I do know what happened, I just didn't make the video. So, since 2012, over 10 years now. Well, no, actually, no, because I missed a year, 2 years almost. So I guess I haven't been keeping it up for a decade, but I want to keep it up for a decade. Since 2012, I've done since 2011, I've been doing my top 20 films of the year. I like doing my top 20 films of the year. In 2014, there was so many I did a top 50 films of the year. But every year, nevertheless, I've done a top 20. And it gets pushed back further and further because I wait for the Oscar season, the awards season. I want to see this film and that film and da. And then it got away from me. 2021, I watched a decent amount, 55 films, compared to 2020, where I watched about 25 films or something. 2020 was a weird year, obviously, but I still did my top 20 films video. So 2021 just fell by the wayside, and then I realized that, holy shit, we're coming up on 2022. We're near the end of the awards season for 2022. The Oscars are just around the corner. So I better get my shit together and make my 2021 video. And it's interesting to actually look back on it now and remember the films from 2 years ago. In some cases 2 years ago, in some cases a year and a half ago. And I even shifted things around a bit because things that I liked at the time, and kind of I had the recency bias and the new film shine to them. In my memory, I thought, well, that it doesn't hold up as well as the other ones in my mind. So that was kind of an interesting exercise. So I have my list here on Letterboxd, so you can see if it would even focus on my phone. So these are my bottom films of 2021. And then I can just kind of scroll through. Oh, no. I can scroll through there and get to my top 20, which I rearranged just a little bit. There was nothing I really didn't like. Just looking at the bottom here. Films like Last Night in Soho, disappointing, but still very good. Army of the Dead, quite fun. Godzilla vs. Kong, quite fun. There's nothing I really disliked. Except for Venom. What's the title of the film? Venom Carnage? Venom Let There Be Carnage. I'll leave that in for free. That was just awful. What did I rate? Wow. That is a surprise. I can't believe that I gave that film 1 star. That, for me, that is particularly brutal. I'm very generous with my ratings, but I clearly could not abide that film. Very interesting. Okay. Anyway, we'll get into the top 20. We'll just dive right into it. And let's get started. So, number 20, Fear Street 1994. So this film was part of a trilogy that came out, I believe it was in weekly installments, or maybe it was like every weekend, which would be weekly installments. But it was like they all came out within the same kind of brief period. And I just loved, I was hooked by that idea, an instant trilogy. I get easily drawn into a good concept, and that was a good concept. So there was Fear Street 1994, Fear Street 1978, I believe, and then Fear Street 1666. And I was really drawn in. I thought it was going to be an anthology story at first, but then I realized they're all linked, and we have the same actors, and there's a bit of trickery going on there. I loved how it all wrapped up. I really loved the third one. Second one was pretty good. But the first one for me was the strongest, and I loved the kind of 1994 setting. I'm not a slasher fan, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the slasheriness of it all, and I just thought as a trilogy, it was really fun and very well executed. Number 19, Love and Monsters. This will always be a special film to me for a very strange reason. But it's nothing special, but I really, really like it. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic kind of action-adventure movie. It's a good cast, memorable characters, some good CGI in a film that clearly doesn't have a huge budget. There's a battle at the end of the film with a monster that reminded me of like Ray Harryhausen. I thought that was really cool. But it was just really fun, and I just really enjoyed it. It was just a very, very good movie, and the kind of stuff that I like, just a nice scope to it. I really enjoyed it. Love and Monsters. Number 18, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Watched the whole thing, start to finish. I liked the 2017, was it 2017? The Whedon cut of Justice League. I enjoyed it. It was good fun. Nothing particularly good, nothing particularly, great. It was fine. It was some fun entertainment. So what we did was we watched the Whedon version the night before, and then watched the Zack Snyder version. Wow, what a fascinating occurrence, really. I think it's just incredible. I mean, it's one of the weirdest double cuts of a film you'll ever see. And you're saying, oh my God, there's more of that. Oh, a lot of that good stuff from the film was really in Zack Snyder's version. And now I'm seeing all the bad stuff that Whedon put into it. And it just made me see Joss Whedon in a completely different light as a director. And that was fascinating. So just purely from a comparative standpoint, it was fascinating. But I loved the big swings that it took. I loved that it was this kind of ungainly kind of 4-hour epic. I felt like the ending was a bit too long in terms of they put in a new scene with the Joker, and it felt tacked on for the sake of tacking it on. But otherwise, I thought the main story and everything within it was great. I loved the 4x3 framing of it. It felt just different. It gave a lot of the scenes more verticality, I think. There's just some interesting stuff going on there with the framing that didn't just feel like a pretentious move to me. Yeah, I thought that, and what a weird situation it was. It was wanted. It was, fans were so passionate about it. They hounded Warner Brothers and kind of backed them into a corner a little bit. And I'm still seeing people tweeting about the Snyderverse. You got one. You got this one, and I did think at the time how great that this has happened, but how bad this is going to be moving forward for kind of fans who feel now entitled to kind of claim, that they not claim, but like, what's the term? Fans are going to now feel like they deserve and are entitled to other versions of films, and now we're going to start hearing about films that had like a 3-hour assembly cut, and then they don't understand what an assembly cut is. Deliver us the 3-hour cuts of, Batgirl or whatever it is. Now the Batgirl situation is a whole other video, but I would agree with people pushing to have that film released for a whole other reason. But in general, I just think that now we're seeing like, make the Snyderverse, and I'm just like, there's only so far this can go. You got this one. It was a big win. Just bask in it and enjoy it. He got to finish it the way that he wanted, and I think that that's great, and I actually really enjoyed it. Number 17, Space Sweepers. I had this in my top 10, and I moved it out because I realized that it hadn't held up as much in my memory. This is directed by Jo Sung-hee. It's on Netflix, I believe. I was really blown away by this film. I think the visual effects are great. Korean film, and I just was really wrapped up in the kind of for me it was really the multinational aspect of it, the international kind of flavor. There's so many different characters from so many different backgrounds and languages, and there's subtitles throughout the whole film, obviously. And it's about this little girl, this kind of girl who might be this kind of very sought after robot, and this kind of ragtag group of they're like the space junk collectors. And they pick her up and they take her on this adventure, this sci-fi. It felt a bit like Cowboy Bebop at times. And me and Connie loved it. We really, really enjoyed it. It just hasn't stuck out as much in my memory as a lot of the other films in it, so I kind of bumped it down. But I really wanted to champion this film and encourage people to watch it because it was a ton of fun. I really had a blast with Space Sweepers. Number 16, we have the next entry in the Paul Thomas Anderson cinematic universe, Licorice Pizza. And I always look at this American spelling as Lyco Rice. And it's like, that's not how you spell licorice. But anyway, so Licorice Pizza. What a film. I loved it. I loved the vibe. I thought that Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid was unbelievable. The natural chemistry he brought to this, the confidence he brought to this character. I found it interesting how there's a bit of an age gap here with the romance, with the older woman, played by, is it Alana Haim? Did that just pop into my head for no discernible reason? Yes. So there's an age gap romance going on here. She's significantly, well, not significantly, yeah, she's a few years older than him, and it is what it is, and it's not shied away from. But I thought to myself, I wonder if like when the Elvis movie comes out, will people be talking about how Elvis's future wife was, what, 14 when he met her and stuff, and no one seems to really pushing a backlash towards the. Maybe they don't go into it. I haven't seen the Baz Luhrmann Elvis film yet, but anyways, Licorice Pizza, I just thought two incredible lead performances that felt so real and authentic and believable, and just all this hijinks that are going on. It's one of those stories where the plot is really just the background and backdrop to this relationship, which I found oddly sad by the end. The final shot in particular, I thought, oh no. And I wonder how intentional that really was, because it felt, there's a very loaded film in both directions. And I thought that it was a wildly kind of intoxicating film. You get sucked into the vibe of it. You feel like you're there, I think. And that's a great strength. And I really enjoyed it. Number 15, The Matrix Resurrections. I think I fell in love with this film in like the opening 10 minutes of the film, when you see this this big neon sign on the building. This opening sequence, which is kind of built to replicate kind of the feeling of the original opening to The Matrix. There's a big neon sign. It's almost blink and you'll miss it. And it says, it's something I can't remember if it's verbatim, but this big neon sign says, "For those who like to eat shit." What Lana Wachowski did with this film was super interesting. I don't want to say that some people clearly didn't get it, but some people clearly didn't get it. I can't believe that Warner Brothers let her make this film, because it's such a fuck you to franchises and sequels, and the demands of IP, and how studios use that just to churn money around a big endless barrel of profit, and yet made a really sweet love story in the middle of all this craziness that also serves as a sequel to that original Matrix trilogy, and is just wholly its own thing. I thought it was funny. I thought it was really like biting, that the satire was fantastic. I enjoyed the performances. I loved just the longing of this romance between Neo and Trinity, and how it kind of tied back to the original films, but also felt like it existed on its own island at the same time. And yeah, that was a ton of fun. Some really cool action sequences. I was blown away to see that the shot where Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss jump off a building, they did that for real. Like, I thought that would just be like a digitally enhanced thing, and obviously there was some digital enhancements going on, I think they had a net perhaps, and they were on wires, but like they were literally jumping off that building. I thought it was pretty fucking cool. Anyway, Matrix Resurrections. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that film. Number 14, Palm Springs. Once you do the Groundhog Day concept, it's difficult to do it again in a way that feels fresh. And I know that there was like a horror version of it, Happy Death Day or something, which people rave about. But in this instance, we're talking about, what would happen if two people were caught in a Groundhog Day-like situation. And what if they were stuck at a very specific function? In this case, it's a wedding in Palm Springs. And we have a man who's stuck looping the same day. And then he meets a girl and she gets caught in the same loop. And that was really interesting. And is it Andy Samberg who plays the lead? Yes. Sometimes I just have names in my head of actors I don't really think about. And I think, is that really their name? Did I just invent that? But the female lead, Kristen Milioti, she needs to be in more stuff, man. Maybe she is and I'm just not seeing it. When she showed up as the mother in How I Met Your Mother, spoilers, she just radiated on the screen, and I thought she's going to be the next big thing. And it just didn't seem like she was, I think that same year she was in The Wolf of Wall Street, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. She's really good. But it just seems like she dropped off the face of the planet, which again, I'm sure she didn't, but I haven't been seeing her in many high profile things. She's so good. She's just so entertaining to watch, and the chemistry is fantastic in both the romantic side of things between these two characters and the combative side of these two characters. The friction, the conflict. I absolutely loved everything about this film. It was fantastic, and there's a couple of nice supporting turns there. J.K. Simmons shows up, but it's really about these two characters, and I thought that it was wonderful, and a great twist on that Groundhog Day formula of having two people going through it and how that would complicate things, especially how far he was in the loop before she was and how that plays into things too. Number 13, I was going to say the latest Pixar film, but we're far beyond that now, aren't we? Luca. This was a beautiful film, like visually, just so colorful, so vibrant. Reminded me of Studio Ghibli at times in terms of its look and feel, and not too much to add really, other than that I really enjoyed it. It was just a good story, a beautiful setting. You know, it's kind of the Pixar formula, but it really clicked for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. And there's again not too much more to say about that, but I liked the themes of it, and it's one that I need to go back to. I'm keen to go back to that one quite a bit. Number 12 is Bo Burnham's Inside. So this is a Netflix special slash film. If you haven't seen it, the comedian Bo Burnham basically used lockdown to make a film inside a little, what would you call it, like a granny flat, basically. A little small room separate from his house, I suppose, where he's trying to write songs and make this film. And the cinematography in this thing is fantastic. The songs that he wrote and performed are brilliant and just hilarious. And the overall message of just this descent into kind of insanity and questioning your own kind of your ego and your self-worth and the creative struggle was really well depicted here. My only issue with it is that towards the end I felt like it was too manufactured, and I didn't know, I couldn't tell the lines between performance and reality, and I didn't know what I was supposed to think. I don't know if he was trying to convince me that it was real, or if he was trying to make a point that it isn't. And because of that, the disparity between those two and how I felt, it held me back a little bit. Otherwise, this would have been like near the top for me, because again, the way it goes into creative struggles, the way that it is just this one guy in this room with a camera, you know, and how transparent that is, the way he uses lights and projection, and the songs are just so well done. I think it's fantastic. It's really, really brilliant. Number 11, No Time to Die, the latest James Bond film, the final Daniel Craig outing. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I know that people have been iffy on it. For me, it provided something that I always want out of a James Bond film, and that showed me something that I haven't seen before. You know, we know you got to do the big action set piece at the beginning. We know you got to do the big musical number and the opening credits sequence. You know, there's going to be a Bond girl or two. You know, there's going to be an evil villain that Bond has to kill. You know, there's going to be one-liners. What this film did was it gave Bond more of a purpose than he's ever had in any of the other films before. And for a franchise that's been going for this long, you know, over 50 years, I think. Yeah, way over 60 years now. This is, it was released on those 59th anniversary, I suppose. Is it? Yeah, it was 1962, Dr. No. So, you know, a huge history. I believe it's also the 25th film in the series, right? Not counting, of course, Casino Royale and, was it Never Say Never Again? So there's a couple of unofficial, but the Eon Bond film, you know, Everything or Nothing, you know, there's the 20, that canon's 25. So a monumental film historically in that sense, in terms of a series and a franchise. But, you know, I thought it was so well done. I love that it kept the thread going from the previous movies. The performances were great. Daniel Craig was excellent. Rami Malek was good as the villain. Maybe could have had a bit more depth there, I suppose. I mean, there was depth, but it wasn't my favorite Bond villain. But for me, it's all about his central purpose in the film and how that presents itself and how the film ends and gives us something different. I just love that about it. And I really hope that when we get to the next Bond, we just strip away all the dreariness and the seriousness and just have fun again. I really love a super campy Bond movie. And, you know, we had a great turn from Ana de Armas, reuniting with Daniel Craig after Knives Out. And she was, you know, she could have been in the film a lot longer, let's put it that way. She was sorely missed as soon as she left the screen, because she was so fun in that very brief role that she had. So moving into the top 10, we have Tick, Tick, Boom. So this one was directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Is there anything this man cannot do? At first I thought, okay, so now he's trying to be a director, but fucking hell. This is a great movie. So this is, I don't want to like ruin it. Or not ruin it, but like get it wrong. Is it Jonathan Larson? I think it is. Because this is another film that blurs the lines a little bit. It's about a guy who wrote a play called Tick, Tick, Boom, I believe. Then again, I'm not entirely sure. I've already forgotten the specifics of what this film is actually presenting to you. All I know is that Andrew Garfield plays Jonathan Larson, yes, and it follows his struggles as he's approaching his 30th birthday. I believe it is the play. It's the story. Yeah, it is the play Tick, Tick, Boom. And there's footage of Jonathan Larson performing it in the credits, I believe. All those details I'm getting bogged down in don't really matter because this is a phenomenal film where the music is woven into it so beautifully. There's power to it. There's a peppiness to it. Andrew Garfield is phenomenal in it. I thought he was just great. The whole cast is really, really good. It's just a powerful film, and I need to see it again. This is one of those ones where clearly the finer details have left my mind after a year or so of having watched it. I watched it near the end of 2021 when it came out. But the feeling is really still fresh of just being blown away. Like, this is really like powerful stuff. And I'm not the biggest musical guy, but it really, it moved me in ways emotional and just that kind of overwhelming feeling of just seeing something being executed so well on screen. I thought it was brilliant. Number 9, we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, what's the better film? Tick, Tick, Boom or Shang-Chi? There's no competition. It's Tick, Tick, Boom every day of the week, 3 times on Sunday. That's where this is why this is my list of favorites, my top 20, the ones that I enjoy more than this one or that one. Shang-Chi was a big surprise. I saw it in the cinema. It may have been the first film I saw in the cinema since the pandemic had started. And the trailers look cool, but it kind of seemed like, same as usual, just the old routine from Marvel, which is fine. I still enjoy it, but I really love the flavor of this film. That's the best way I can describe it. I like the culture that was infused into it, the Chinese culture, and I like the performances a lot. Awkwafina, I really like her in what is that film? It's a really good film. Maybe I can bring it up. What is it? The something. It's the something. Not the farewell. Yeah, The Farewell. Okay, it's The Farewell. She's great in that film, and it's not really a comedic performance. Her comedic stylings are not quite in my kind of bandwidth, I suppose. But I actually liked her a lot in this, and she bounced well off of Simu Liu, who plays Shang-Chi. But the main star of the show in this is Tony Leung, because and I've mentioned this in a video previously, but I saw this on Letterboxd, I think, or Twitter, where someone said that Tony Leung just bodied the entire cast with his acting. He is so fucking good. What an actor! Even when doing English, there's just a resonance that man brings to a role that is just unparalleled. What a fucking actor! And him being the kind of villain / kind of he is the villain, but there's more layers to it. And I just thought he stole the show. What a great antagonist to have. Yeah, and it's a bit digital, you can tell there's a lot of green screen going on in the film, but I love the story. It felt so wildly different from the other Marvel movies, and I really loved it. Number 8, maybe a controversial pick, Malcolm and Marie. This is directed by Sam Levinson, and yeah, I can see on my Letterboxd, a lot of people I know rate it 2 stars out of 5. I gave it 5. It's about this filmmaker and his girlfriend who come home after a successful screening or gala, and the actors is it John David Washington? Denzel's kid, yes. So John David Washington and Zendaya. It's Zendaya. It's just those two. It's a COVID movie, and there have been better COVID movies than others for sure. This one viably feels like a film that could have been made pre or post COVID. I think that it's a decent concept of just these two people coming home after a night out. It's heavily loaded in terms of like the power dynamics of the relationship and how this filmmaker guy is a pretty pretentious prick, and his relationship with his girlfriend is charged in many different ways, and it all starts to bubble out. It's an argument movie, and I was just captivated. I could not stop watching. you know what it's like. And this was a Netflix film, and you know what it's like when you watch a film at home. It's so easy to pause it, go get a drink, get another snack, go to the toilet, pause it and check your phone. For this one, I was like, oh, just another few minutes. This is what's the end of this scene, and then something else happened. It's like, ooh, where's this going? It kept my attention. My attention was just really engaged throughout the whole film, and I thought there were two great performances. Just thought it was fantastic. I really did. A lot of people shouted on it, thought it was rubbish. I thought it was great. Number 7, A Quiet Place Part 2. This one directed by John Krasinski. So this comes up as 2020. I think it was maybe shown at a film festival in 2020, but we went to the cinema to see this, I believe, and wow. Fantastic film. Again, I love these films. The analog is the right word, but the comparison between A Quiet Place and The Last of Us for me is pretty pronounced, and calling it A Quiet Place Part 2 was already just ringing all those like similarities, because The Last of Us sequel was called The Last of Us Part 2, and then there's just similarities going on there, and it's pretty rife, but there are enough differences, and I think the silent aspect of it is kind of a good enough gimmick that separates itself from The Last of Us. And I would say that in A Quiet Place, the monsters are far more important to the plot in A Quiet Place 1 and 2 than The Last of Us, where I'd say that The Last of Us is focused more on the human characters, and the infected monsters are more of a backdrop. Whereas in A Quiet Place, they're very much at the forefront, and they're very urgent, on the run stories constantly. And I thought they did a brilliant job with the sequel. Her name is just Emily Blunt, fantastic. The actors who played the two kids, great. We had Cillian Murphy coming in; he was fantastic. I just thought it was great. It's not the type of film that I would say is like a masterpiece or anything, but for that kind of thrill ride, it just was perfect. Like there was just no holes whatsoever. Like it just perfectly done. And I was so as a thriller, it thrilled me to like the nth degree. So I have no complaints, and I thought that it was just great. I really came out of that film thinking that was fucking awesome. Number 6, I should say, The French Dispatch from Wes Anderson. I went to see this in the cinema, and there was a very memorable moment where the just a light bulb went, and the whole cinema went dark, and then the lights came up, and the film had just blown out, I guess. And it was like only a couple of minutes before a character gets electrocuted, and I just thought, oh my god, can you imagine how perfect it would have been if the whole screening had stopped during the electrocution. The film came back on, we finished it. I thought it was really good, I enjoyed it a lot. And then during one of my silly phases, I'm like, I'm going to be a film writer. I'm going to write film reviews. So I wrote this like ridiculously long review of The French Dispatch. But in doing that, my appreciation for the film just kept getting higher and higher as I started writing out things that I thought worked. So I'll leave a link to that in the description, actually, if you want to read it. It's my very long, slightly pretentious. I'm trying to be a bit playful with the chapter headings and stuff. But this is an anthology film, blends lots of different styles, from aspect ratios, color, black and white, animation. Lots of different stories going on. I love the one with, damn, these names are escaping me, Benicio del Toro, and she's such a great actress. Her name is escaping me. Lea Seydoux. But the whole cast, I mean, Tilda Swinton, Adrian Brody, Bill Murray, Timothy Chalamet, Frances McDormand, Jeffrey Wright, Mathieu Amalric. Steve Park was brilliant in this film. His little role in that third part of the film. Henry Winkler, Bob Balaban, Owen Wilson. The credits go on and on, and obviously, Christoph Waltz. Obviously, these actors are in the film to varying degrees, but I just thought it was fantastic. I thought that it was, brilliant. I don't want to do a deep dive on it because I've already done that with my written review, which you can go check out. But I'm intrigued to see how it holds up, how Connie would enjoy it, actually, because she likes Wes Anderson's films. But yeah, I really love the look of it. Like, it's beautifully shot, like absolutely beautifully shot. and it has all the trappings of Wes Anderson. Like every time he makes a new Wes Anderson film, I say he's gone full Wes Anderson, and then he goes even further beyond that. But he has a style, and I love the stories that he tells, and there's a whimsy to it, and then it catches you with a really impactful moment, which I think is usually very well done, and in this film, it really is well done. So heading into our top 5, before we get to the top 5, actually, no, we'll do 2 more. Before the top 3, I'll give you my honorable mentions. So number 5, we have Coda, which was directed by Sean Heder. I hate that one. I don't know how to pronounce something. That really bugs me. Coda, Child of Deaf Adults. This is an interesting one. It seems to be a trend where a film will win Best Picture and then everyone turns on it, you know. It's a great film, you know, and people are, oh, this is a kind of awards bait kind of stuff. Like, I guarantee you this film was not written with, oh, we'll win an Oscar with this one, Best Picture material, I'm telling you. You know, is there any creative out there in the film industry who hasn't thought about winning an Oscar? Probably not. Will that inform the way that they make their decisions? Probably, you know, there's going to be a little bit of that, but at the same time, this is a beautifully told film. Predictable, sure, but the concept of this deaf family with this young daughter who can hear and loves singing, so it's a very simple setup. But it's, you know, there's this moment towards the end of the film just kills me. Not to spoil it, but her dad, who rightfully won an Oscar for the film, Troy Kotsur, I believe was the actor's name. He's a very volatile character, and her going off to kind of study music and singing is going to take her away from the family business, and he's mixed on that. But there's this beautiful scene where they're sat out under the stars, and he asks her to sing for him. He can't hear this, and so he takes her head and he holds her face to his chest so he can feel what she's singing, right? Very cheesy, but the way that it's performed, it's beautiful. You know, you could take a scene like that, and maybe the staging of it or the acting of it might, dive off too much into the deep end of melodrama. But it wasn't that maudlin to me. It was really genuinely affecting and beautiful, and I just thought the film was great. And the lead performance was fantastic from Emilia Jones. Marlee Matlin is great too. The whole cast is really strong. I don't mind it winning Best Picture. You know, ultimately these awards don't really mean anything that much. People get way too wound up about it. Coda? Really? Coda for Best Picture? Fuck off. You know, it's a great film. I loved it. Number 4, we have Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, you could fill a whole video with my thoughts on this because it's such a big story, from its announcement to the tiptoeing around who was in it, who wasn't in it. The very clear fact that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were going to be in it, but they refused to announce it, refused to acknowledge it. Andrew Garfield very poorly attempted to cover it up, and people believed him for some reason. Like, it's so clear that, it's a Photoshop. That was like, oh no! It's like, no, come on. But I have to admit, even when I was sat in the cinema, it gave me that element of doubt. And when he came through that portal, and here's the thing, I don't really like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, and I love the Tobey Maguire ones. I grew up on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. They're very dear to me. The Andrew Garfield ones, at the time, I just thought, I don't really like the films, don't like his performance. So before this, I did revisit them, and I enjoyed them a lot more than I thought. And I've always actually thought that the ending of Amazing Spider-Man 2 was super strong. Brilliantly done, very, very harrowing stuff. But I always felt it was unfair to Andrew Garfield, who just seems like, the nicest guy and a great actor, who really loved being Spider-Man, and he got the short end of the stick and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And what this film does so brilliantly is it provides potentially an ending for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. It provides Tobey and the fans a nice kind of a reunion of sorts, but never at the expense of what's most important to this film, which is Tom Holland's Spider-Man and his journey, knowing that he's probably going to go on to play this character for at least another 10 years, if he's smart. But I just think that Tom Holland's Spider-Man could potentially be one of the all-time great superhero performances across many films. There's so much more potential for him moving forward, and this is really this trilogy of films from Homecoming to Far From Home, No Way Home. The Home trilogy is really his origin story, and well, along with Civil War and Infinity War and Endgame. He's been in so many films by now, but it's such an arc where this guy had, his Uncle Ben was Iron Man, and it was a different twist on it, and it was very heartbreaking, and he has to wrestle with that in his second film. But then they go ahead and they do it to Aunt May as well. So now he's lost Aunt May, and now it's like, okay, so this is a Spider-Man who's gone through double the amount of trauma. And then he has fallen in love with Mary. Is it not? I don't know if her name was actually Mary Jane, but MJ, Zendaya. He's fallen in love with this girl, and he has this best friend who he loves, and he now has to say goodbye to both of them too. They don't die, but now at the end of this film, they don't know him anymore, which is almost as the same thing as them dying in his life. Triple trauma. Where does he go from there? What a great setup for future stories, And I think Tom Holland is a fantastic actor. I really admire him for his honesty. There's an interview I saw him give where he said that he felt like he dropped the ball on Uncharted, and that he was thinking too much about being cool than doing acting properly. I thought, holy shit, the stones on this guy to be that honest probably might have cost him a sequel. I don't know how well the Uncharted movie did, but I respected that, and I liked that, and he seems like a good guy, but he's a really good actor. Especially in this film, he gets to really show the hurt and the pain, and it really settles and simmers and boils over, and the rage comes out. Brilliant job. But you get all these villains from previous movies that I've loved, like Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina. As a fan of Spider-Man 2, this was a great film to watch for that kind of fan service, but I felt like the fan service was never overriding the overall plot, and I just thought it was so well done. It could have been a complete cluster, and I thought it was brilliant. It was emotional, it was exciting, it was funny. I do hate that they had 3 Spider-Man in live action on the big screen. What a moment. And they set it on a pile of scaffolding at night. Like, think of the colors it could have popped if that was like a scene at sunset or sunrise. In any other, I like that it was the Statue of Liberty holding the huge Captain America shield, but it was just like, you can tell that it was done so they could hide a lot of the seams of making this very quickly and all the visual effects involved. But that's a fairly minor quibble, because when the sun starts to rise at the end, the stuff looks a lot better, and you get the color of the suits and stuff. I just thought that, for that hero shot to take place on top of the Statue of Liberty in a murky kind of dark shot was a real shame. But I just thought Willem Dafoe was phenomenal as well. Sorry, I'll leave that in for free. Marissa Tomei, who was already an Oscar-winning actress, which I still find a bit weird. I love My Cousin Vinny, but it's best performance of the year. I don't know. I know it was a supporting actress win, but nevertheless, though again, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's a good thing that roles like that do win awards. I don't know. Regardless, I think she's great. Obviously, she doesn't have much to work with in these movies. It is what it is. What she did in like her last scene of this film, that's an Oscar-worthy performance. Don't care how long or short it was. So realistic the way she portrayed it, and she had to deliver a line that would have made my eyes roll if I'd heard about it beforehand, but she nailed it, and she did it in just a different kind of way that it felt natural, and it worked with the scene, and how she performed that scene was it just felt so believable and different. That kind of scene I don't usually see. You've all seen the movie. It wasn't your typical death scene. She'd been mortally wounded, and her reaction is to just stand right back up like she's fine, and she's shaking a little bit. No, I'm fine. And then it starts to really, the shock settles in. Like, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I love the film. So my honorable mentions, films I really enjoyed from 2021 that didn't quite make the list. Ghostbusters Afterlife was a lot of fun. I really liked The Eternals, or just Eternals. I really like Black Widow. Yeah. Summer of Soul was a phenomenal documentary, which won the Oscar for Best Documentary and was completely overshadowed by Will Smith slapping Chris Rock in the face. The Guilty is a very good film with Jake Gyllenhaal. He plays a kind of a call operator for 911, and the whole movie is set in the 911 office. Brilliant film. Nobody with Bob Odenkirk. That was a ton of fun. I love that scene on the bus where he's like, "I'm gonna fuck you up." Raya and the Last Dragon. Was it Raya? Raya or Raya? I don't know. Zendaya. Really, really enjoyed that. Really good Disney movie. And Promising Young Woman, which on one hand is a brilliant film. On the other hand, I think they completely fumbled the ending in a way that just pissed on so much of the good work that had gone up to that point. You know, it is number 21 on my list because the performances are strong, the concept is great, and it really works most of the time. But that ending kind of undercut most of the movie for me, unfortunately. Power of the Dog was fantastic. The Tomorrow War was not really a good film, but I really enjoyed it. It was just cheesy fun. And The Lost Daughter was really intense. Phenomenal performances in that film. So there's a lot really good for Encanto was a lot of fun. Cruella, I enjoyed far more than I ever thought I would. So there's my honorable mentions for 2021. Number 3, Dune, Part 1 by Denis Villeneuve. So a lot of people are anticipating this film, obviously. The unfilmable duel. A duel? Dune. I'll leave that in for free too. I just looked at the last duel on my Letterboxd list. No. The unfilmable Dune, where, you know, David Lynch famously tried it and, you know, it was succumbed to studio pressure and all but disowned the film. Which is actually just off screen on my shelf. Here. Dune. So I really love David Lynch's Dune. There's something about it that's, you know, the production design is fantastic. It has its moments. The third act descends into complete madness, and you're just thinking, what am I watching? But I liked it a lot. I love it even. But I had thought, what if a filmmaker was to... Oh, I'm out of focus. Hello? Camera? Are we just going to stay here? Or are we going to... There we go. I always thought, like, what if this was done properly? Which sounds terrible. I really like the David Lynch one. But what if this was done, like, legit? And the story was made a bit cleaner and clearer. This is the answer to that. We saw this in IMAX, and I welled up with tears during a shot where this big kind of circular spaceship is landing on the ground of this planet, and there's people waiting on the ground, and you see how tiny the people are, and how massive the ship is, and the scale of it on that IMAX screen just overwhelmed me, and it looked real. And I don't know if they're blending models with CGI, or that the CGI is just so good that it looks real. And I was overwhelmed by it because it's not just the visual, it's the sound and the seats rumbling. And I'm seeing that in a lot of the shots, the IMAX ratio is expanding, and it's just like, fucking hell. And this is in Cardiff, where it's not really a true IMAX screen. I can only imagine what this must have looked like in, say, the BFI IMAX. In fact, if they screen it there again and I have the opportunity, I'd probably do a lot of, I'd make a lot of sacrifices to be there, because that would be insane on that screen to have that kind of experience, maybe when the second one comes out. But visually, it's the kind of stuff I love. It's the kind of shit I love about movies, is that kind of scope, that epic scale. The cinematography is fantastic. And it's a story that really lends itself well to that kind of larger-than-life stuff. It's about these people in this larger-than-life story and world, and everything is dwarfing them. And, it's about these big ideas, and, the spice, and, these civilizations, and Arrakis, and all that stuff. Cast is just phenomenal. It really is. I think Timothée Chalamet, is a great actor. He's probably getting a little bit of that kind of flack now of being the pretty boy or whatever, but he is just phenomenal in this film. Rebecca Ferguson, outstanding. Even Jason Momoa, I thought, was a bit of a scene stealer. And then you got Josh Brolin. I'm just trying to see if there's any other names that I forgot. Of course, Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron, like, genius casting. Oscar Isaac. That scene where it's just like, I forget the wording of it, but like, the only thing I ever needed to be is my son. What a fucking line. Yeah, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Zendaya, who is barely in the film but has such a resonance because we see her throughout the film in these dream sequences, and she just has this luminous quality to her throughout this film. I cannot wait to see what she does next. Charlotte Rampling, Javier Bardem, it's just incredible cast. It really is. And I can't wait for the sequel. The sequel is starring fucking Florence Pugh and Christopher Walken. Like, holy shit. I'm so glad it made enough money to make a sequel. But I just thought that it was such an overwhelming, powerful experience. It's just that kind of big screen shit I love. And it made the story a lot more, again, concise and clearer. Amazing performances, amazing visuals, the score from Hans Zimmer. Everything's just, it's all working in perfect unison. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Yeah. Spice. No, not suppose it was what's the line at the end of the film? Is it? No, not. Oh man, I've forgotten the line. Like the line that ends the movie. Was it Spice Power? No, Spice Up Your Life. No, fuck, what is it? Because it's like wind power. Is it Spice? I need to look that up. That's gonna bug me because it's like it's memed, but it's also like kind of a cool line at the same time. Let's Google it while we're here. It's a long video anyway. I can feel myself flagging as well because I did a video before this. Dune? Is it Spice Power? I don't know. It's not Worm Power, is it? Because of the worms or whatever. No, what is it? Ugh. Desert Power. I knew Spice Power seemed not not the line. Desert Power. Yeah, so there's see, all I wanted to do was just throw in at the end Desert Power and then move on. It just became a whole thing. But yeah, Wind Power, Desert Power. All right, so I can't wait for the sequel, which will be this year. Oh wow. Oh, we're in for a treat. I can't wait. Awesome. We're getting spoiled as sci-fi fans. Avatar 2 last year, Dune the year before that, and then Dune Part 2 this year. So moving into the top 2 now. This is a really difficult one for me, and it's seesawed back and forth. And I could see it changing again. And it's hard to categorize. My top 2 films of 2021 are both, to me, brilliant movies. Both films about family, both films about young women, and both films that stir up a lot of emotions in me. And I'm afraid, I don't know, I feel... Yeah. Okay. Oh, I don't know. I still can't decide where to put them. I still cannot decide where to put them. Okay. All right. Number 2. Directed by Celine Sciamma. Petite Maman. This film is a masterpiece. If we're talking what's the best film of 2021 that I saw, it's this film all day long. And it's only 71 minutes or so you can probably watch it, 16 or 17 times. I don't want to even describe it because it's so good, and I don't want people to know what it's about, and I want people to just watch it and see how brilliant it truly is. It's a very quaint, quiet movie, very subtle, but it's about this young girl, 9-10 years old, and her mother is going through a difficult patch because her mother has just died. So this young girl's grandmother has passed away, and so she's spending a few days at her grandmother's old flat as her mother and father clear away all the stuff. And so what has a kid got to do during that time but just hang around? And so she goes out into the woods to play. And this is where her mother went to play when she was a child. And this young girl meets a friend out in the woods who's also playing. And so there's kind of an analog there and a kind of a familiarity, and it's just a truly wonderful film, about love. And I can't even, again, I would love to do like a properly written review or video essay where I could truly express myself about the film. But I think that the themes that it touches on and the way the story goes, could have been dealt with so much differently, but it's handled in such a matter-of-fact fashion, you almost don't really see what's happening for a while. And you're like, oh, so that's what this is. well, I guess, that's fine, And there's about three moments in this film that just hit me like a punch to the chest. And then by the end of it, I'm just like, brilliant, you know. And at like 70 minutes, it's so concise. It doesn't feel like it's not long enough. Definitely doesn't feel too long. And these two girls, their performances are so natural and so compelling. I think I have the Blu-ray here. I could just show you the front cover of it. Man, I love this film with a deep burning passion. I really, really do. And you can probably see on the back there, these are the two girls. Yeah. Just loved it. I absolutely loved it. Best film of 2021 by far. But my number one is an Apple TV Plus documentary called Billie Eilish, The World's a Little Blurry. I've reviewed this film on my channel. You can go check that out if you want to see it. I had heard Billie Eilish through the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die, which ties it back to the year 2021. And an ex-friend of mine said that it was one of the worst James Bond themes, this No Time to Die by Billie Eilish. And just to prove a point, as I like to do sometimes, I'm going to listen to it and make my mind up that it isn't one of the worst ones, which is also always a terrible way to approach anything, really. But I listened to it and I thought it was fantastic and became one of my favorite James Bond themes. I have heard of this girl before. She always looks like she's drugged up with like a vacant expression on her face. The image repels me, but her voice is amazing in this song. I thought, oh, maybe I should listen to some of her music. And I turned on Bad Guy and I thought, nah, just get away. This not my kind of thing at all. And then just in my recommendations, because I'd searched for that, there was, and I'm kind of going through what I probably have said in my review. So, you can pick and choose if you want to check that out or not. Although that will obviously be a lot more of a expanded review of the film. I'm just trying to summarize here because it is my number one film of 2021. And I want to express to you why. But I need to set up these bits first. So I saw this performance she did of When the Party's Over on Howard Stern without all the electronic kind of embellishments of the recorded version. I thought, holy shit, what a voice and what a song. What a melancholy, beautiful, stinging feeling of this kind of emotion that she's bringing out. And then I heard there was a documentary. I thought, well, this is how I get into musicians, is documentaries. My favorite band, Pink Floyd, got into them from a documentary. My other favorite band, Rush, got into them from a documentary. So I thought, well, let's check it out. And I watched this film and I just thought, what an incredible story. Because the documentary follows her as she's making her first album. She's kind of famous, but as the documentary progresses, she gets super famous. And it covers all aspects of kind of that period of her life where she's still living with her parents. Kind of, it's since come out that maybe that wasn't as true, but she still spent a lot of time with her parents and was like, 18, 17, 18, 19 as the film was being made, catapulted into superstardom, struggling with her own creative struggles. They show her kind of, I think, headlining or having a big spot at Coachella, I think it is, and like some of the stuff on the screen doesn't work and she forgets the lines of one of her new songs and she's devastated. And her family are like, it went great, and her dad's like, hey, you messed up a few lines of a song no one knows yet, it's no big deal. She looks like she's about to die. She's so like depressed about it because she wants everything perfect. You see her performing in Europe somewhere, and she's very physical when she performs. And right at the beginning, she sprains her ankle, and she tries to continue, but just runs off in tears because she just feels like she's let everyone down. This is someone who cares so much about what she's bringing to people. This is someone who cares so much about the fans that she has, and she loves her fans. But I started seeing where the ideas were coming from with the music and the lyrics and the stories that she's telling, and also this incredibly sweet relationship with her brother Phineas, who very clearly is the more musically inclined of the two when it comes to production and putting things together. She has these lyrics and he helps with the lyrics too, and it's this great sacrifice of this brother who his younger sister has perhaps subjectively a better voice than him, but undoubtedly, objectively has the better branding than him, because they're touring as Billie Eilish, not Billie and Phineas. You know, he's there performing with her, performing all the songs, singing backing vocals, producing all the music. But it's the Billie show, and the humility to take a step back and let your little sister be the star. Obviously, he's making a lot of money doing it, but I just think that from an ego perspective, it shows a lot of love. And her family, her mother and her father, I was just so charmed by this family unit. And it's a film about family and about fame and stardom and how someone wrestles with that when they're in the very throes of it first kicking off. It would be amazing to see this kind of access behind the scenes of like other huge names in the music industry, in the film industry, who are just breaking out and seeing the intimate details of how they're dealing with that. There's a sequence where she's being asked to take pictures with all these like record company people and like, "Hi, Billie," and they you know, arm around her and stuff. And she's like, "I don't fucking know these people. You know, I don't ever want to be put in this situation again where I'm just paraded out to take pictures of people who I don't even know." You know, and so she fights back against this stuff. So, you know, I talk a lot more about it in the review in terms of people who talk about how like, oh, she's an industry plant and her parents had connections, and yeah, a lot of the time it's who you know, but the talent is undeniable, and the special quality of her music is undeniable. And then I started listening to her music, and I started getting into it more, and really listening to the stories she's telling, and then that led into the release of her latest album, which came out maybe 4 or 5 months after the movie, Happier Than Ever, which is now one of my favorite albums. I love that album so much, but it's been like almost 2 years now since that album came out, and so my interest in Billie Eilish has waned quite a bit. So I'm feeling like, you know, is it just, again, the recency bias at the time that made me think that that was my favorite film of that year? But I think back to 2021, that is the film that I think about the most. And what really pushed it over the edge for me was I made Connie watch it. And she was so repulsed by the idea of watching this film. She had no interest whatsoever. She's like, "Nah, she looks stupid. I don't like her music. I hate her music and all this stuff. I'm never going to watch this." And so we did the 24-hour movie marathon, which is in developmental editorial hell at the moment with all the previous installments that I haven't released. But in the 2022 24-hour movie marathon 11, my pick, the one film that we'd watched that she couldn't deny, was that one, because I knew that she'd find something interesting in it because she's so musical. And she was really mad with me for picking this film because she knew that I knew that she didn't want to watch it. And she was so begrudging, and I'm like, okay, you can back out after half an hour if you're really hating it. So we watched the film. And then we set up the camera and we talked about it for about 45 minutes. And that was just such a win for me that she actually, you know. And I'm like, yeah, right, you know. So right now, I'm not really in a very Billie Eilish kind of mood in that sense. I haven't been listening to her music in a long time. But I think that experience, and also watching it again to see if it would hold up, and watching it with someone else, which is very different, and it really did. There's just these great moments to it, and it's such a great arc of this, you know, the success that she achieves at the end of the documentary with these historic Grammy wins. But for me, I think that the kind of the big win at the end of the film is just the simple moment where, because at the beginning you see her having all these ideas about her music videos, and the guy who's directing it is frustrating her, you know, and she's getting really mad about it. And she's like, right, that's it. I'm directing all my own music videos from now on. And you look at that and you're like, oh, diva behavior. Like, okay, well, we'll see how you do directing your own little video. But she starts doing that, and they're good videos because she knows what she wants, and she has that creative eye for the visual side of it. Her music is not just music. There's you know, she draws kind of ideas for her songs and things. But near the end of the film, you see her sign a contract as director of the music video. That to me was the emotional climax of the film. That was like fucking like, you know, good on you. You know, I thought that was brilliant. Anyway, enough, you know, heaping praise on Billie Eilish in the documentary, but The World's a Little Blurry, I thought was brilliant. Is it like the best film of 2021? No, not at all, you know, but for me, it's the one that just had that. And the fact that, you know, putting it above Petite Maman almost seems ridiculous to me because that's a masterpiece. And this is just a really, really good documentary. But I just loved the story so much and connected with her story, her parents, her family story, and the fact that it's real just drew me in so much more. So that to me is my favorite film of 2021. There it is. My top 20 films of 2021. I think 2022, I'm woefully behind. There's still stuff I'm behind on with 2021. You know, it is what it is, but I will briefly check to see what my shape is looking like. What shape my 2022 list is looking like. This is what happens when you filmed an hour and a half's worth of videos at midnight. Your words start to fail you. So lists, 2022 movies ranked. How many are on? 18 films. I don't even have enough to make a top 20. So I need to, and one of them is a TV special anyway. So yeah, I need to watch a few more 2022 movies before I do that list. But you know, I've got time clearly. So it's like, this is like February, probably not going to come out till March. So it's like 15 months after the year ended. Fucking hell. I look back on my previous top 20 videos and they seem to get longer and longer, like December, February of the following year, April of the following year, August of the following year. And now we're like fucking 2 years ahead almost. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this mess, and leave your thoughts down below if you have any on your favorite films of 2021, any of my picks and so on and so forth. I'd love to interact with you guys in the comments. Thank you for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one.